meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets.
And how you living, how you doing, how you
Bring the
feeling,
fight.
folks? Back for
Guaranteed
another
to
episode
put the
of
tiger up.
City
The
Night Lights.
Mets
Of
are
course,
really
I'm your
something to
favorite host,
behold.
idiot
Not
number
much
zero. My
longer,
name's Zach. How
so
you
the
guys doing today?
ball
So,
is
we're back for another episode talking
underway.
about free agency, talking about what's happened,
Everybody's
how
coming
this has changed the Mets' outlook on free agency, what this might cause them to do. So, obviously, we'll get right into it. We saw two huge signings occur in this last week alone, where we saw Shohei Otani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto get signed to the freaking Dodgers, man. So clearly the Dodgers have a plan. They're building out their roster as best they can and really trying to bolster down that starting rotation, especially with the question marks they have. Otani not pitching for another year, Walker Bueller coming back. You got have guys like Will Sheehan on there, Bobby Miller. Still have some young guys with some question marks. We really got to see how that rotation fills out. But that's not who we're here to talk about today, guys. We're here to talk about the New York Mets, baby. So, with that being said, you know, I want to get into a little bit of the philosophy behind what I think the Mets should need to do in this free agent period. We need to go out there and go, look, this is not going to be our year. We know that. We just sold every single person we had in an attempt to make that last year our year. But what I think that we need to do is I think we really need to look at a lot of these pitching prospects and really, especially these batters too, and really just be willing to give out 1 year deals or maybe 1 year with a club option for a second or kind of staying in the lines of that. Nothing really more than a 2 year deal I don't think is necessary. I think that's actually more of a detriment to the Mets franchise at this point, just because we have so many prospects, so many young guys that we want to see, really prosper and come out and about. And especially with Ronnie Mercutio's torn ACL injury, I mean, that's just further setting us back in the whole, are these prospects worth, are these guys good? This whole thing that we just had gone out and done. So I'm really intrigued to see what the Mets do now because really I don't think these prospects are working out in the way they thought, especially with Vientos and Beatty and guys like that. It's just it clearly has not clicked yet. So I think there's been some issues there with our current prospects, and to rely so heavily on these prospects that we've seen so many of them not be what we need them to be. I don't think it's necessarily smart to rely on that. But at this point, we are where we are. We gotta, kind of roll with the basket we got. So with that being said, I'm still looking at a couple batters I'd like to see the Mets go out there and make an attempt at. You know, a guy like JD Martinez or Justin Turner or even Whit Merrifield, I think add a lot of value to this club, especially on a 1 to 2 year deal. JD would be a great DH bat. You could stick him in the outfield every so often. He's of course not a defender, but that's the type of guy that I'd be more than happy to have because we really do need that power bat in the lineup. A guy who can, you know, protect Pete. We just haven't had a guy that's been able to protect Pete since Pete's got here. So I think that's something that's really needs to be, fixed and valued upon when we look at these free agents. Now, I like JD. JD's obviously a big hitter, great player. He's in his older years, and same thing with Justin Turner. Great contact hitter, guy, great clubhouse guys, the guy you want in and around your club, in and around your team every single day. Old head has a lot of great experience, has won a championship, something that would be nice to bring to a lot of the young guys on this ball club. Now, it'd be cool to see Justin Turner, maybe play a little third base, play a little second base, maybe a little DH. I would like that. I think that would bode really well for the Mets, bring him back to New York. And Whit Merrifield, I throw in the same boat. The only thing is that he's a little younger. Definitely another contact hitter, something that we have plenty of on the Mets. But what I will say is that he adds a stolen base factor, plays great defense. You can play him at third, you can play him at second, you can play him in the outfield. And I think that's something that the Mets love versatility. I could see them very much going out there and signing Whit Merrifield in a short term deal. I think that would be a really smart signing for them to do as well. Now, there's two other guys specifically I really want to get into, and Tim Anderson I think would be a cool signing. You could DH and play him at second base. I don't really think he's going to ever play shortstop again in the MLB just because of how bad he is defensively. This is a guy coming off a rather poor year for himself, but I think, you can put him in a situation like New York, a guy like this, similar to the Marcus Stroman situation. I think this is the type of guy that'll flourish in New York, so I'd really like to see the Mets make a run. Now, the only other guy I'd like to really talk about here And of course, I'll just quickly mention a couple guys I think might not be terrible signings for the Mets, but might not also be in their best interest. Guys like Joey Gallo, guys like Teoscar Hernandez, Adam Duvall, you know, just getting some power bats in the lineup, I think really adds a another layer to this team, and I think that's something that we've sorely missed out on pretty much throughout my entire lifetime. So now, the last guy I really want to get into here is going to be, you know, outfielder for the Cubs last season, Cody Bellinger. Now, he's a lefty bat. We got plenty of those, but it would be nice to be able to go, you know what? Our three bat is Pete. Our four bat is Cody Bellinger, and that's one hell of a guy to protect your home run masher. And I really do like Cody Bellinger. I think he adds a really versatile piece in the outfield. Has a great arm, something that we're seeing. We're gonna eventually need with the oldness and the kind of regression we're seeing out of Starling Marte. So I think that'd be a great person to really go out there and go, hey, look, we're willing to give you a long term deal. This might be the only long term deal that we should hand out during this entire free agency. And I wouldn't be bothered by that. So, like I said, Mets still need to make some moves, especially on the offensive side of the ball here. So, with that being said, I want to get into the pitching because much of our pitching landscape in this free agency has changed with the signing of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And so, I will say one thing. I'm a little disappointed the Mets weren't able to get him, but we did all we could. Steve Cohen visited Yoshinobu in Japan. He also had him over for dinner at his house. I mean, look, we tried to show this guy the utmost respect and we paid him top dollar. We gave him the same amount as the Dodgers would, but he preferred the Dodgers. So it is what it is. There's nothing we can do with that. It's just unfortunate. It really is because it would have been cool to have a young talent like that to root for it in New York. Really would have been pretty cool with him and Senga, one and two. But it is what it is. Now, the one thing I would like to hit on real quick is the fact that the Mets did make a trade for Brewers starting pitcher Adrian Hauser. Now, I'm not gonna go out here and say Adrian Hauser is a great piece. He's a nice back end of your rotation guy. Like I'm comfortable with having him as my four or as my five starter. But really, when I look at this starting rotation, I go, this is a scarily bad starting rotation. I mean, with Senga at the one, I feel comfortable with that. But then we go right to Quintana, who's an innings eater, right to Sevy, who hasn't been healthy in the past couple of years and really hasn't shown me any value. Adrian Hauser, who's another innings eater, and Tyler McGill slash David Peterson, who really haven't come into their own yet. And I just have a big problem with that. I think the Mets are going to run into some huge starting pitching issues if we don't go out there and really bolster this starting rotation. So, with that being said, I mean, look, there's a couple guys I think that would be really beneficial for the Mets to pick up. I think it would be, I think it would definitely add a lot of value to the club. And really, the one guy I harped on a lot last time, and I'm gonna bring him back up again, and that's Eric Lauer, man. I like Eric Lauer. He was similar place as David Stern. We know we just traded for Adrian Hauser, another, Milwaukee pitcher. Now, I would love to see the Mets go out there and trade for Corbin Carroll. Something that's been, rumored is that Corbin Carroll's to be on the move potentially in this offseason. So that would be pretty cool if the Mets made a run at him and then gave him a big money deal. I would be very for that. Now, as we take a look at Eric Lauer, we see that he's only 28 right now, going on 29. Let's see. Why does this look so bad? Okay. Now I have his stats. Sorry, it took me a while. So last year, Eric Lauer didn't really have a great year. We saw him play 10 games, only have a 6.5 ERA. He's pretty horrendous. Only had 46 innings pitched last season. But the two seasons prior, he was able to maintain an ERA under 4 with a 3.69 and a 3.19 in 2022 and 2021, where we saw him play 29 and 24 games, definitely hit over 100 innings. And I think Eric Lauer in our type of pitching environment, I think he could flourish. I think this is a guy that I'd like to see the Mets take a chance on. And really, I don't think we need to do it for all that much based on the stats that he's had in the past few years, especially last year. I think we can go out there and go, hey, look, we'll give you a 2 for 10 deal, or we'll give you a 2 for 10 with a player option in year 3, or or a club option in year 3. I would love to see some type of stuff like that. I think it'd be really advantageous to the Mets. Now, with that being said, two of the other guys I would really like the Mets to look at are Jack Flaherty, a guy who's coming off a down year, might really be advantageous to go out there and go, hey, you know, you're still a little younger, you're still in your 20s, obviously your upper 20s, but you've had a lot of career success. I think that'd be a fun guy to bring in, see if he has any juice left, and really, you know, like I said, this is really a let's see what we have. Let's see what we can get, especially if we can get it for cheap, just to reload for next year and be in full swing. So I'd like to see a shot at, Jack Flaherty, even a shot at Lorenzen, a guy who necessarily hasn't had the greatest career success. But with the way the Mets are structured right now, it doesn't look like we're really going to be able to go out there and get top pitching talent. I would love to say that, hey, you know, we're going to see the Mets go after Marcus Stroman, or we're going to see the Mets go after Brandon Woodruff, or we're going to see the Mets go after a guy like Jordan Montgomery, another lefty, or a guy like Blake Snell. But I just highly doubt we're going to go after a guy like Blake Snell, a guy like Montgomery. I really would like that. I think it would be very advantageous for our team. Even a guy like Julio Urias, I think would add a lot of value to the club, being a 27-year-old, rather young. And honestly, the Mets just they need a lot of pitching help. So let's just take a quick look at Urias' stats here. Okay. I mean, over his career, he's been pretty effective. Now, I would say that last year was his worst year, having a 4.6 ERA through 21 games, but I would be more than happy to take a chance on Julio Urias and bring him over to the Mets just because this is a guy who's had career-long success in the Dodgers, you know, and I would be, he's not just an innings eater, he's an innings winner. I mean, over the past 3 years, he's pitched at least 115 innings each of the last 3 years, with 2 of those years having a sub-3 ERA. So, like I said, I would like to see the Mets take a potential shot at Julio Urias. I think that would be a really fun signing for us. Now, outside of that, I don't think we go after Stroman. I really don't think we go after Snell. Maybe we make a run at Montgomery, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here, folks. So, with that being said, relievers are relievers. There's not really a lot of options here. I mean, obviously, we're going to see the Mets take some shots at this, but I don't know how successful that's going to be. It'll be rather interesting to see how that goes. So, with that being said, folks, I really appreciate you guys coming out and listening. I hope the Mets make some awesome moves. I mean, we've been making moves in the bullpen. I know I really skipped over that real quick, but I wouldn't change anything I said from the last episode. I think our bullpen outlook remains the same. I don't think anything really changes there. So, with that being said, folks, I appreciate you guys coming out and listening. I really, really means a lot to me. And, with that being said, folks, have a good one.